Welcome back to The Brain Changers, the podcast where we explore what it really takes to change your life from the inside out by rewiring your thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. Now, today's episode is one that I've been especially looking forward to since I met this woman, because we're talking about something that shows up everywhere, from boardrooms to what you'll find out, building sites. And it often hides in plain sight. And of course, today we're talking about imposter syndrome. Now, our guest is Mrs. Kim Allen. Kim is a construction industry powerhouse. She's a CEO, award-winning business owner, and a keynote speaker. Now, Kim spent many years on the ground mentoring emerging leaders, navigating high-pressure environments, and helping people reclaim their confidence in a world that often expects them to prove their worth over and over again. Now, Kim's mission is to reshape the construction industry, and this is perhaps why I was immediately drawn to her, because I grew up in and worked in the construction industry myself. Now, what I love about Kim, and you're going to find this out for yourself, is that she doesn't just talk about mindset, she's lived it. In an industry known for its toughness, she brings heart, clarity, and a no-nonsense approach to breaking through self-doubt, especially for women in construction. So if you've ever felt like you're faking it, or you're waiting to be found out, or you just quietly resonate with that phrase, imposter syndrome, then this conversation is really going to hit home, because we're going to explore the silent toll of imposter syndrome, why it affects even the most capable people, and what we can do to shift it, not just with surface level strategies, but by changing the internal script. So let's get into it. Welcome to The Brain Changers, a podcast about learning how to revolutionize the way you think and live by mastering your mind. We're your hosts, mother and daughter duo, Rebekah and Yvonne King from Moonbeam Monday. Our goal is to empower you to live the life you choose by teaching you how to retrain your brain. Some people tell us it sounds like mind control, and it is, but not the way you might think. This is about you taking control of your own mind rather than letting your mind control you, so you can choose to live a life free from the expectations of others. No matter what you've experienced in the past, you can create positive change and transformation by learning how to master your mind. We know this because we've done it. Between us, we've survived cancer and stroke and eliminated debilitating anxiety and depression. We've turned our pain into purpose through the power of our mind, and we're now here to support and guide you to do the same. In this podcast, we share valuable insights about how your brain works, why you think, say, and do the things you do, how to begin the process of change, and why it's necessary. Because we know that when you change your mind, you change your life. Thanks for joining us. Let's go. Kim, welcome to the Brain Changers podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to this. Hey, first of all, can you tell us about the Mrs.? Where did Mrs. Kim, I know you're a Mrs. You are married, but where did the business name Mrs. Kim Allen come from?
Yeah, sure. So when my husband and I first started CRA, we agreed, let's get in it together, 50-50. I was creating the business admin side of things in the background, and he was on the phone to our clients, builders, anyone that we would speak to on the side. Mm-hmm. And my husband's not IT savvy, so he'd be on the phone to someone and say, I'll get my missus to sort it. And it's so a common trait in the industry.
Yeah.
But it grinded my gears, and I'm like, no, swallow it. This is how the industry is. This is how it needs to be. And then I just thought, stuff it one day. I went up to him and said, why? Why do you call me this? He's like, well, everyone else does. And I put my hand out to him and I introduced myself. Hi, my name's Kim Allen. Start calling me that, because if I'm not to get respect in this industry, it all starts with how you and everyone else speaks to me and portrays me in this industry. How
Mm.
will anyone in our team respect me if you're calling me your missus? My name is Kim Allen. So I've just put a spin on it. It's Mrs. Kim Allen, and let's roll with it. And now he's the husband.
Yeah, he's the Mr. Kim Allen, perhaps.
The Mister. Yeah, that's it. That's it. I actually introduced him at a meeting I was chairing last week. I'm like, everyone, this is my husband or the Mister. And I thought, yeah, it's my time.
Absolutely. It's definitely your time. I love that. What I really like about that, and when you first told me that when we first met last year, I love the spin that you put on it because we're all about language here. We're all about reframing. And you essentially that's what you've done. Instead of, stamping up and down for too long and throwing a tantrum, you've gone, okay, well, how can I use this? What can I learn from this and how can I put a different spin? I really love that.
Yeah, 100%. It's taking back control and your own power.
That's right, which is exactly what you are about.
Yep, yep,
Can you
absolutely.
can you tell us a little bit more about that? What is it that you do? Like I've been having as I said before we started this, I've been stalking your website. I love everything on it. You've been mentoring, you run programs. As I
Mhm.
said in the intro, you're a keynote speaker. So talk to me about what it is that you actually do and where this came from, where this passion came from.
Yeah, sure. So we've had our main business CRA for 7 years now, and it's been a journey, putting it lightly.
Hmm.
Um, and where I've really struggled is taking ownership. I have felt like an imposter the entire time. When we first started, I didn't feel like I belonged. So within a few months, we had enough work to generate to be able to hire a team, and the team that came on board with us very quickly were from my husband's previous business. I had worked in this industry many years and had a lot to offer, but I was always sidelined. And when we created CRA, it was very much so, no, this is how we're going to be. This is where I stand. But when we started bringing back team members that we had previously from the other business over to our new business, they had worked with my husband for many years, were their apprentices, they were his apprentices, and he trained them up, and they didn't know who I was.
Hmm.
They didn't know my skill sets, and I really was just the missus.
Mm.
So my imposter syndrome set in straight away, feeling like I need to prove myself to them. I need to um, try and be one of them. So
Mm.
I was struggling to gain their respect, and I even went so far one day as to start, not one day, but they would come around my house because we were working out of our house at the time, and I'd put on music they would enjoy.
Right.
And then I started dressing like them. I started wearing the CRA uniform and my gym gear every day instead of feeling like I could just be me. I had to fit the mold and the group um, and what they all thought I should be.
Hmm.
Um, and what's evolved is as we've grown as business owners and as we've grown as just people and matured, we've realized we don't have to be that status quo. We don't have to fit the mold. And that's where I've gone, well, I never chose to be in this industry. I never chose to own a plastering business, that's for sure. Um, but I'm here. What can I do to make the most of this situation? Me, I love helping people. I love marketing. I love speaking with people. I love giving back as much as possible. So that's what I've done. I flipped it. So I now go into schools and introduce kids to plastering because I've acknowledged that our industry is quite horrendous and I want to improve it. If I can make one little change in our industry that's getting more children interested in the trade instead of falling into the trade, that's showing them how amazing our trade can be. That's by me encouraging more women to join the industry and showing them that it can be done. We just all have to have a few little resources of support in our back pocket to be able to help guide us through the way. And that's where the whole Mrs. Kim Allen brands come into it. It's just my way to create my passion for what I do day in, day out and continue to enjoy it.
What a story, what a journey. Like you said, it really has been a journey. And it's so interesting hearing you talk about it like that. And, I was watching your video, as I mentioned, and you talk about plastering being your passion. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that before. And that's so cool to hear that. And I like how you're talking about encouraging kids, especially as they're
Mm,
thinking about what they're going to be doing, to choose the construction industry or plastering in particular as their career of choice as opposed to falling into it. Because I think that does tend to happen a bit, especially with trades. It's almost like a backup. It's like, oh,
yeah.
I not going, or I can't go to uni or something like that, so I have to go back to a fallback. Whereas it's not. I mean, the building industry we can't live without it.
Yes.
So being able to actually funnel kids, get them excited about that something in that industry, I think is wonderful. Of course, we all know that the building industry is male dominated, has been for
Mm,
a long time. It's not to say that there aren't women like yourself in the industry. Like I said, I've worked in the industry. There's some pretty high up, powerful women there. But what is it that you think makes the construction industry particularly vulnerable to this imposter syndrome?
the industry has, it's been going hundreds of thousands of years, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is it's created this mold of what it should be. And everyone's had to fall into that mold or they don't belong.
Mm,
So, there's this old school mentality, which is they have absolutely have their place, they have their right to be there, but we've evolved.
mm,
So it's understanding that we are there to evolve with them. Now, more females coming into the industry is really just to soften the industry and create a nice balance. Women on site create a different perspective. They have beautiful ideas that have merit. They reduce the testosterone levels on site. So it's not just this negative, toxic workplace that often is formed by, thinking that you have to yell and abuse your apprentices, that you have to shout and stomp your feet and prove your worth in that regard.
mm,
Instead, it's making them recheck how they apply themselves and how they speak to the others on site. The lunchbox talk doesn't necessarily, you can tone it down. It doesn't need to be who you slept with on the weekend and what you did to them and all this, it doesn't need to be that at all.
mm.
It's creating a new normal of just a beautiful balance as far as I'm concerned.
And I think perhaps that's one of the misconceptions, of course, with women in general. So we could be talking about any industry here. There are still people out there who think and feel that women, either on site or in the boardroom, because you said bringing a softer approach, and sometimes people interpret that as women being soft. And
Mm,
therefore, I know that a lot of us who have been in those positions in the past have thought, just as you described at the beginning, thought, oh, well, we have to be just like the guys. We've got to dress like
mm,
them. We've got to be macho. We've got to, be direct, or whatever it might be that we see. And I think also people, particularly perhaps men, can think that women bring too much emotion into the
mm.
boardroom or onto the building site. It's just fundamentally untrue.
Correct.
Um, so I love that you're saying bringing a that feminine energy, or what I heard was bringing a feminine energy, which doesn't mean soft or emotional or unable to cope. It's like you said, that balance. I like to use the word harmony, bringing that
Mm,
harmony perhaps to
mm.
sight, which can bring a whole new perspective to the site.
It really, really does. And it takes them out of their routine. So I know my team on site, we have a female apprentice and they don't know how to speak with her, to be honest, because they're not used to it. They're used to just barking orders. And we run our business in a way where bullying is not condoned, abusing each other, swearing at each other is not condoned. Like it doesn't need to happen. So
Mm.
it's just the reality is that's just bringing it into line where you speak to everyone the same. You need to speak to them like you respect them, just like you deserve the respect in return. So how do you want to be treated? Okay, that's how you speak to them. That's the end of the day.
Yeah, treating everybody equal as a
Hmm.
human. We just had a couple of technical issues, so we did lose power or something there for a moment, but we're going to press on. Kim, I'm going to ask you the question that I just put to you before. How do you recognize that someone is even experiencing imposter syndrome, and especially if they've learned to just push through or to overcompensate? And this could be male, female, anywhere in your career.
Yeah, I think that comes down to understanding your gut feeling and how you truly are resonating with what's happening. Do you feel something against it? Do you feel, your inner critic, what's it saying? Listen to it. That
Mm,
inner voice, is it the right thing for you? Does it align with you? Does something feel off or wrong? Um, you need to actually acknowledge these feelings and acknowledge what your body is signaling because more often than not it's right.
mm,
I went into a government meeting the other week actually where I was a representative for our industry association and I walked in and it was a ended up being a very high up government meeting and I went, what on earth am I doing here? I don't belong here. Oh my gosh, I cannot say anything. Don't open your mouth, Kim. Don't put your foot in it. Don't do anything wrong. Um, and then the meeting opened and the conversation started flowing, and I thought, oh, I can contribute to this. I know what they're talking about.
mm.
I have something to say. And then I opened up my voice and said it and went, whoo, that, I did it.
Woohoo!
Go me.
Yeah.
But the amazing thing was I acknowledged what was going through my mind at the time. I acknowledged that what I could contribute and I chose to flip what was going through my head. I
Yeah.
chose to say, no, 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 I don't have to align with what everyone else thinks I should be doing. I can be me and align with my values and what what I know is right. And that was I had something to contribute to the conversation. And it's going to come up across everyone every single day, I think, no matter where you're at, whether you've pushed it so far down that you genuinely don't believe you deserve to be somewhere, or you don't deserve that voice, or you don't deserve to have a say in anything. It's just learning to unravel it piece by piece and know that you are worthy, that you do deserve this, that you you are allowed to continue to grow and thrive in life, but that comes from you being able to make that decision and choose to flip where you're at.
Yes, there's a couple of really cool things that you said there, and that I want to just touch on. I love that word choose. You're using the word choice. We all have a choice in everything. We have it's our choice how we feel every day. You know, a lot of people use that phrase because we don't often think about our language until something comes into our world to make us think differently about it. We might say, oh, that person made me feel a certain way. Actually, when you realize that nobody can make you feel bad or like you don't belong, they can impact the energy around you, but you have a choice about how you feel. And I think I love that you shared that story, Kim, because it goes to show that even somebody in a role like you're a CEO, you're a real powerhouse in the construction industry, you have made a name for yourself, but you can still feel this imposter syndrome or this I haven't got anything to contribute or oh my goodness, I'm in this room full of people that, where I don't belong. It doesn't mean that you're immune to it, but you've learned some tools there to be able to snap yourself out of it, reasonably quickly, because essentially what you're doing there is just telling yourself a story, right? And this is what we're all doing. We're just telling ourselves stories, beliefs and patterns. They're not facts, they are just stories that we've told ourselves. And it's because our brain is there to keep us comfortable. It's actually doing a really, really good job when it does what your brain did, because it's keeping you safe. It's keeping you alive. It's keeping you comfortable, because our brain actually doesn't like doing uncomfortable things, does it?
Yeah,
And
like the
so,
salesman.
pardon?
The
Yeah.
salesman. The salesman's just done a really good job.
Yeah, I love that. I haven't heard that before. I'm going to borrow that.
The
Totally
other
borrow that.
day, your brain has trained you to do something and sold you on the package deal and
Yep.
probably upgraded to steak knives with it.
Yeah.
But, the reality is, do we really need those steak knives? No. Do we really need that package that we've just bought into? Buyer's remorse. The same
Yes.
goes to,
Yeah.
for everything in our life. We are allowed to go, oh no, that decision didn't quite align with who I am.
Hmm.
I always go back to my values. Does this align with my personal values, my professional values, my company values?
Hmm.
And if there's no alignment, then no, thank you. You are allowed to return to sender.
Yeah, yeah, you've got some great one-liners, Kim. I love that. Expect to hear this in my social
Hey,
media.
love it.
But you're absolutely right. We talk about values as, speaking of the construction industry, and this is because my mum and my dad, they had a building company. I grew up in the industry. And so we kind of like this synergy, but we always talk about the values being like the foundation of the home. You can whack some walls up and throw a roof on, and even start decorating inside. But if you haven't actually dug the footings, poured the slab, given it time to settle, then eventually those walls and roof are going to fall over. So we've got to get that foundation right. And I'm so glad that you brought up values, because even recently I've been talking to some people who, when I ask that question, what is most important to you? Because that's what our values are, right? What's most important to me in this context? They haven't been able to answer, because we absorb majority of our values as young people, as children, from the people around us, our parents, our caregivers, and then we're not taught to question them throughout our lives. So our values are actually running our life, they're running our decisions. But if we don't know what they are or what they mean to us, not everybody else, to us, and then how that actually relates to our behaviors, then how can we actually ask that question down the track? Hang on, let me go back to my values. Is this in alignment? So that's when we find, there's that misalignment in our body. That, we stop trusting our gut, perhaps. And this is actually going to steer us in the right direction if we are listening to that gut. So, can you tell us a little bit about how it is that you come back to those values? Like, how have you figured those values out? And then how do you then align your decisions with them?
Yeah. Um, Look, I work alongside my husband.
Hmm.
That in itself has its challenges day in, day out.
Sure.
We are both I wouldn't say fiery, but we're strong-willed. We very much so believe in our decision that we're trying to put across.
Hmm.
Um, so what I do is I say, well, does this align with our business? Does this align with our values in our business?
Hmm.
We've gone and done all the beautiful quizzes to figure out what our values are.
Yep.
Um, and our company values are integrity, communication, and professionalism.
I love that you have communication in there.
Because it's so poor in our industry
Yeah.
and it is so relevant across so many facets of any business, any industry.
Hmm.
Can someone have they gone to site with high integrity? Have they communicated well, and are they professional?
Hmm.
Or this other situation to the left, this builder that we're looking to, who's approached us to work with them, do they align with our values?
Hmm.
No.
Hmm.
Do they have a bad reputation? Will they pay us? Will they try and sting us through non-communication? That is where we go, they are not right for us.
Yeah. Well, on your website, you talk about the power of language, and I hear a lot of that underneath this as well. You talk about the power of language and mindset on your platform. So I'm wondering, have you seen how changing the story, we talked about stories, our brain telling us stories. Have you seen how changing the story that people tell themselves can actually lead to real changes in how they show up at work?
Yeah, absolutely. Mindset's huge for my business. So I get mindset coaches in to work
Mhm.
with my team. So I will have someone come in and talk about what gratitude is, happiness is, teamwork, safety. I have someone come in and do breath work with our team, ice baths, because my team's mindset, they will, if they are not happy on site, if they are sad and mopey, that's affecting their mindset. That in turn is affecting how they work with their team. That in turn is affecting their safety on site. These are the absolute base of where we start any training with our team.
Mm.
Who are they? Where do they want to go to? How can I help them initially in that regard to then grow from there? Myself personally, I went on a expedition about a year ago. This expedition ended up being in the snowy mountains where we had to climb Mount Kosciuszko in our swimmers in the ice.
Wow. You're
And
kidding. My goodness.
but what happened from that is I used to hate the cold.
Mm.
Hate it with a passion. I used to whinge, I used to sook, I used to no go, right? Went on that and I come back now. I have a cold shower every day. I have ice baths and I enjoy the cold. Yes, I'll
Wow.
still choose to rug up and sit out, but I'll sit outside in the cold, rugged up. I'm not sooking and I'm not whinging about it, and I'm choosing to look at the enjoyment of it and what it's bringing to my life and how it's benefiting my life instead of flipping it the other way and feeling sad and feeling sorry for myself. You know,
So
it
what was it about that expedition you think that helped change that story? Because I can't imagine a whole heap of people are going to go, great, I'm going to climb Mount Kosciuszko in my swimmers. But what was it about that particular experience, do you think, that helped you change the way that you think about the cold?
it was opening up my mindset. So it was all about reducing trauma and stress, and we did lots of breath work. It was relieving the pressure that we put on ourselves and then realigning ourselves. So it was, we did this build up of starting with breath work, with testing the waters of, maybe walking outside in our swimmers just for a brief moment and then going and jumping in a cold lake and then going and, we did little increments to
Mm,
get to that point.
mm,
So but it was very much so based around your mindset.
mm.
I had to relieve a lot of pressure I was putting myself under. And what I acknowledged at that point in time was walking into that expedition, I was quite a broken, burnt out woman. And I had to acknowledge that to be able to then flip that. How can I help myself instead
Mm.
of playing the woe is me card?
Yeah, very much as we talk about living at cause rather than living in effect. What can I learn from this? What responsibility can I take in this situation rather than blaming it on external circumstances or other people? And a really important point that I took out of that from you is that change doesn't have to be, and often isn't, one big giant leap. As you said, you probably walked outside for 2 minutes and then went back inside, and then you dipped your toe in the ice bath and then you came out, and all of those little incremental uh, bits that you did led to you being able to then climb this mountain in
Mm.
not many clothes. So this can be the the mistake that we make perhaps in thinking, oh, I've got to go from here to there, and it's going to take me a long time. It's going to be hard and uncomfortable. It's going to cost me a lot of money, and I'm going to be doing things that I don't really like. And so we often go, oh, it's too hard, right?
Yeah.
Because again, the salesperson in our brain,
Yeah.
does a really good job going, don't do this, it's too
Yeah.
hard. And so we can actually start this process of change, of changing our mindset, of, changing the story in our head by these tiny little incremental things. It might be bringing in one tool, it might be changing one story, it might simply be awareness, an acknowledgement, like you said.
But it's an ongoing journey. So
Yes.
every single day I am having to apply myself.
Yeah.
Not every day is perfect. So I've walked away and acknowledged I have to control my schedule. I have to prioritize when my family time is going to happen and when it's going to be time where I can be disturbed with my kids and not disturbed when it's just one-on-one quality time with my kids.
Mm.
It's acknowledging that my time is precious because I've hit burnout. I've acknowledged that I was definitely broken at that point in time and I've gone, how can I not let that happen again?
Hmm.
Now, it was only a month ago. It was end of financial year, and I overcommitted.
Hmm.
And then we had a lot of changes in our main business that were out of my control. So everything that I'd scheduled in, months ago, trying to pre-plan and make sure it didn't happen, it can still happen.
Mm.
I was exhausted. But what I've done is gone, what do I need to do to pull myself out of that?
Yeah.
And I've acknowledged that and I've seen that instead of continuously going on the downward spiral, I've gone, I need to climb myself out of this. So I've, got out and put my feet in the grass and
Mm.
enjoyed the sunshine. These
Mm.
small, small things to be able to flip my mindset instead of thinking, woe is me. And
Yeah.
the moment you continue on this journey of woe is me, you just see the negative in every single thing that pops up instead of a negative thing appearing and then remembering to flip it to the positive. No, what can I take from this? What can I learn from this? How can I navigate away from this negative? Making yourself
Yeah.
stronger.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Once you've done this once, like you said, you've reached the point of burnout. I'm familiar with that. The same thing happened to me. And then you take these steps to bring yourself out of that. You can get back there if you allow yourself,
Mm.
like we were talking about choice earlier. If we choose to become aware of it, if we choose to acknowledge it, it's less likely to happen again because it's that thing that then kicks in where we go, hang on a second, I know that I've got tools here. I know I've got support around me. What is it that I can change now? What is within my control? I think you said those words. What's within my control right now that I can do? Because this is the thing that we need to acknowledge when we do the inner work. It doesn't mean that stuff's not going to happen in life, right? That's a given. Bad things or stressful situations, things outside of our control are going to continue happening. But it's what we do in that moment. What's the next thing? Do we spiral? Do we allow ourselves to spiral? Do we focus on the negative, or do we choose to move toward rather than away from? Do we choose to move toward what it is that we want instead? If we go back to talking specifically about imposter syndrome, because I know a lot of people will be tuning in specifically because they're sitting there thinking, this is me. Are there any other tools that you use specifically to shift out of this imposter syndrome thought when it pops up?
So, me personally, my biggest imposter syndrome was beginning to dress like the boys, beginning to talk like the boys, beginning to listen to the same music as the boys.
Hmm.
I enjoy all that. I was a tomboy growing up. I have always hung around a lot of men, and that's okay. But what I wasn't acknowledging was who I truly am, who is me. And that's what I've gone and figured out. I do enjoy dressing up. I do enjoy fashion. I do enjoy feeling good. I do enjoy, Pilates. I don't have to go to the gym and push heavy weights like the boys do just to prove that I can do that.
Hmm.
I, that to me was a big turning point that I can just be me. That I got told I have to I can't say certain things to our team. And I get that to a degree, but I
Hmm.
can still have a little bit of me. I can still be me just at a more professional level, learning that the person that I truly want to be with, I align that to certain other people in my life. And I bring that back to there's a time and place for everything, right?
Hmm.
Um, not everyone wants to hear me singing at the top of my head or my
No.
my dirty, sarcastic jokes don't always land when it's someone that I'm supposed to be leading.
Hmm.
It's something that um, I've just had to acknowledge that who I am when I am, and if that's not two different people professionally and personally, but I find my own personal beautiful middle ground of
Yeah.
where I can be happy and content in being me.
Yeah. So very much understanding who you are and your identity, which, for anybody sitting there listening right now going, well, that's a bit of a problem for me right now because I don't know who I am or what I like anymore. I know I hear this a lot from, especially from women who have taken maternity leave and perhaps, their life has changed, right? And especially if you are a stay-at-home mum for a period of time, or perhaps you come back part-time, or you might even be doing some work that's not in your chosen profession for a little while. And it can get to the point where you think, hang on a second, who am I if I'm not a mother anymore, especially once the kids go off to school and things change. So I do hear that quite a bit is I'm not sure who I am anymore. I don't know what it is I like, don't even know what music I like. And I know this one I've been through myself because as we age, our body shape changes, our taste changes as well, things fit us differently. So even I don't even know what clothes to wear anymore because what I used to wear, and what I used to wear in corporate, I don't need to wear that working from home, right?
Mhm.
So all of this comes into that question of identity. So absolutely knowing who you are and learning, and it is a learning process, and sometimes we need some help along the way, learning to love that person and be comfortable in our own skin with that. That's what I
Yeah,
take away from that.
yeah, 100%. It's trusting your gut. It's trusting, do I feel right in what I'm wearing? Do I enjoy what I'm listening to? Do I like what I see? And if something isn't resonating, it's not you, and that's okay. The moment that I became a mum, I changed my whole wardrobe. I was like, well,
Yeah.
I can't wear what I used to wear. So I went out and bought all these mum clothes. And I went, this is not me. This is not who I am.
Mm.
And then I've since gone on a journey of, I went a bit too punk because I was like, no, no, I went like rebellious.
Yeah, yeah,
And then I've gone, no, 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 let's come back a bit and soften that up a bit. And,
yeah,
trying to figure out who I am and even putting my branding out there. I've come out strong and very corporate and I've honestly recently gone, that's actually not me.
hmm
I don't have to be strong in corporate.
mm,
I can soften that.
hmm
And it's a journey. You don't have to do or make these changes overnight, but test
yeah.
the water with certain things.
Yeah, I love that advice, Kim. Thank you. Really being comfortable with who we are. Yes, it can take time for anybody who's listening who's thinking, oh my goodness, I'm so far from this. I don't know what to do. Of course, this is the kind of work we do as coaches and mentors, is that we help you understand your values, what's most important to you, who it is that you want to be. And it is a process. It's not something that happens overnight, like the old shampoo ad says.
Mhm.
It is something that we that evolves over time. Um, Kim, I want to just ask you one last question here. We are both passionate about changing what success looks and feels like. I'm sure you would agree with me in success looks different for everyone, and it's important for us to understand what that means to us. And it's not just about doing this for women. This is across the board. Anyone perhaps pushing against these outdated narratives that we've absorbed. So, what's one belief that you'd love to see more people rewrite?
Oh. changing the status quo,
Mm-hmm.
changing that it's okay. You don't have to be the status quo. You can be you. You can be your unapologetic self. That's the amazing thing, that we assume that we have to fit this mold, this narrative, this storyline of whatever place we are in life or whatever industry or whoever is around us, but we don't. We can be our unapologetic selves and be okay with that. And believe in ourselves because of it. That's the amazing thing, it's finding that confidence to go, this is me and accept me. My mother-in-law actually is the most quirky, out loud, like loud,
Yep.
just one of those people that walks in the room, you're like, oh, here she comes. But I was watching her one day, I'm like, but people just accept her for her.
Yeah.
Why am I not accepting myself for me? And that's the thing. I had to go on that journey of accepting myself, and this is who I am, and I don't have to keep shifting the mold to suit everyone else.
Yeah.
There is a time and a place for certain things, sure, but why do I have to fit this box? You don't.
That's right. It's a beautiful reminder, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast today, Kim. Like I said, right up the top, you're a CEO, you're an award-winning business owner, you're a keynote speaker, and despite all of that, or perhaps in spite all of that, you still sometimes feel like you don't fit, you don't belong, but you've learned how to you're aware of it, you've learned how to acknowledge it, and then how to flip the script. So I really wanted to share with people today, or those listening to the podcast, that it doesn't matter where you're at in life or career or age. It can happen to anyone at any time. The important part is what's the next part of the script? What do we do with that? Do we allow ourselves to move into that in effect mindset, and or everything's happening to me and I can't do anything about it? Or do we take responsibility and say to ourselves, what part of this can I change? And you've given us some great examples and a really good overview of how you've done that. So thank you so much for sharing all of your personal stories and all of your wisdom with us. If people want to know more about you, Kim, how can they find you?
Yeah, mrskimallen.com.au is my website, and I'm on all the socials.
Yep.
So, yes, stalk me, please. I would love you to.
Absolutely. And we'll drop the details in the show notes as well. Kim, thank you so much for being on the Brain Changes today. It has been a wonderful conversation. Listeners, I hope you've received a lot of value for this. And some great tips and tools that Kim has been using herself to take away from there. So thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Remember, listeners, when you change your mind, you change your life. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Brain Changes. We hope you've enjoyed the conversation today. Please like and subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest episodes. Our mission is to reach as many people as possible to help them revolutionize the way they think so they can change their brain and create profound transformation. Please help us broaden our reach by sharing this episode with someone you know will benefit. And remember to tag us on socials at Moonbeam Monday and leave a review. And remember, when you change your mind, you change your life. We'll catch you next time for another episode of The Brain Changes.